As a besieged Imran Khan watches the rise of a new political party, Istehkam-e-Pakistan, and hops around the country to secure bails for many of the 150 cases filed against him by the government, the former Prime Minister also continues to wage a grave existential campaign. Although, on the face of it, much of the street ferment in the aftermath of his arrest on May 9th has subsided, the political and cultural tensions have merely shifted a level deeper in a country also facing a near terminal economic crisis. To understand how this situation is unfolding in Pakistan, Mayank Chhaya Reports spoke to Raoof Hasan, a well known political and security strategist, the founder and chief executive of the Regional Peace Institute, as well as a supporter of and former special advisor to Khan. Raoof Hasan.
Let's begin with the exodus of over 100 key allies of Mr. Khan's from the PTI. How damaging is that? Because I read that there are two former chief ministers, a former governor, and several former cabinet ministers. It's quite a drain, don't you think?
I did a piece on it, and
Yeah.
it was captioned "A Meltdown and the Phoenix Moment." So I look at it as a godsend, basically, because I'll take you back to 2011 when we held that huge meeting in Lahore, which is where the party actually took off to what it was to become in the next 10, 12 years. After that, there was a huge demand from across the political spectrum to join PTI. And I was one of those people, the old ideological lot, who said that put some scanners there. Don't let everybody walk into PTI because it is an ideological party given to a mission. We are not into power politics in the classical sense of the word. So unfortunately, people like me were sort of not on the ascendant at that moment in time, because the basic purpose was, that the party should become a large party, which it did. But unfortunately, the kind of people who entered PTI, who were later to become part of the government also, they had no ideological moorings. And they were what we generally refer to as the so-called electables. That means constituency politicians who, because of one pressure or the other, because of one sort of power base or whatever, influence base or whatever, they generally, carried their constituency. They're kind of certain winners even before the elections are held. So I think the party suffered. The party suffered in a number of ways, most importantly by having lost sight of its ideological moorings, and gone along to a great extent the power politics line. So now that, and it's very difficult, as you will understand, Mayank, that it's very difficult for the head of a party to even if he realizes, that a mistake was made and that these are not the right kind of people to be in the party, it's very difficult for him to actually get rid of them. So this to me is a godsend, basically. It happened, and all those people, they jumped, those rats jumped the ship at the first hurdle. So today, the party is on a voyage back to its ideological moorings, So I feel that, the party that shall emerge out of this experience will be a stronger party, a unified party, and more committed to the original mission of when it was created as a political force.
What is the truth behind the forming of, and I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, Istehkam-e-Pakistan, a new
Istehkam.
party being, sorry?
Istehkam, that's right, sir.
Yeah,
Istehkam.
yeah.
It means
strength,
yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah, that's right.
The party is reportedly being created by the military establishment, which is ironic because a similar thing had happened in the context of the PTI. Even Zalmay Khalilzad has tweeted about it. What's going on there?
So, first of all, you're finding a similarity between this party and PTI is it's not well founded, sir. Because PTI was when we started, we were in the wilderness for about 10, 12, 13, 14 years. I mean, Imran Khan was the only member of the parliament, for the first 10, 12 years. through the three elections or so, out of which one we boycotted, and the other two, he was the only member of parliament who was elected from the platform of PTI. And so we had no support, no patronage. While other parties, like, for example, PML, Pakistan Muslim League in particular, it's an offshoot of the military, basically. It kind of grew in their nursery. While we, what is generally referred to as the fact, that the military was responsible for bringing us into power. I don't think, there is any real truth in that presumption, because I understand that we were possibly going to win another 34 seats, but in order to restrain us from becoming self-sufficient in terms of number of people in the parliament, those 34, 35 seats were actually taken away from us. Although the opposition says that those were their seats and they were taken away. So we feel that in order to keep us in a position of being manipulatable, those seats were taken away from us, and then these so-called electables were given to us, about 15 of them, and we were able to form a very weak government. And one of the things that Khan regrets now, in hindsight, is the fact that he did not dissolve the assemblies immediately after resuming the office of the prime minister. He now says, and he sort of shares it with us, and says that I should have immediately dissolved the assemblies and gone for elections again. And come back, with a majority on the basis of which I would have been in a position to implement my agenda, which he was not able to, because these were not his people and they were not beholden to him. They were beholden to other forces. So this is something that he openly acknowledges now.
Do you feel that with the patronage of the military, Istehkam-e-Pakistan could emerge as a potent force if elections are held in the fall, say October or so?
Mayank, this calls for an elaborate kind of response. Times have changed in the last 4 or 5 years. We're talking about, this politics, is old-time politics, in the sense, that you create a party, then you hold elections, and then you manipulate things in such a way, that they end up winning the elections, and then they rule, and then, they're replaced by another party. I think the level of awareness which has been generated primarily because of what Khan has done to this country is immeasurable. Immeasurable, that's it. So, I think it's no longer possible to hoodwink people, to believe that this other party is a party of angels, and that this other party will be able to deliver to them what other parties have not been able to deliver. I feel that the voter today is far more aware of the circumstances which lead to creation of such political forces, and also the circumstances, which lead to the demolition of governments, which is a frequent happening, in a country like Pakistan. So whenever the elections are held, if and when, I add the word if, because I still do not believe that elections are going to be held anytime soon. If and when the elections are held, you will see that our vote bank would be intact. And irrespective of what happens to Khan Sahib, whether he is still a free man then or he is incarcerated, I feel that vote bank will stick stubbornly to PTI and to his Khan Sahib's role in the party. So I don't think it's going to be an easy task, that a party is created. And if you visit the social media, Mayank, you would be able to see the kind of ridicule that these people are being exposed to. They're being subjected to, as a matter of fact. This never happened before. It never happened before. People were people were easily manipulatable then. They're not any longer. So I feel that this experiment, if it is an experiment, and if this is going to go the whole hog as you think it will, that means they take part in the election, then they will be helped to win the election. I think it's going to fall apart.
No, it's not my case that they'll go whole hog. I'm just wondering whether, with a patronage like that, and given the way Pakistan has operated over the last several decades, it can at least win and rule for a little while, and then they'll be thrown out. That's a possibility I was wondering about.
See, at this moment in time, if you look at the political scenario in Pakistan, PTI was the third force, which was an undesirable factor. because two parties are easily manipulatable. With a third force there, things became a little more difficult. Now, with the fourth force it has created, it number one signifies a rejection of the forces which are already there, or it signifies the desire to make the government even weaker than they have been in the past.
Right.
So, like for example, votes were divided among two major political parties, which is the People's Party and PMLN, we had relatively stronger governments. When PTI came into the fray, then votes were divided among three constituents or three contestants, which means that the government was a little even weaker than it would be when there were just two political parties. Now, with the fourth force being fabricated and understandably entering the election arena, the government is going to be even weaker. That means even more easily manipulatable. So, if this is the game plan, then it means that, the people are not interested in having genuine democracy, genuine sustainable democracy in the country. I mean, look at the government today. We have 11 parties in the PDM and two parties which are supporting the government without being part of the PDM, which is People's Party and ANP. So it's a 13 party coalition. And look at the way the government is being conducted. It has lost all relevance in the affairs of the state. Another force in the political arena at this point, I don't think there is space for another force. So this party, I don't think is going to fare well at all, even if it decides to enter the elections. And I think they're going to, yes, compete in the elections.
But isn't that precisely the point, in the sense that the army may like this ferment to continue within the political space, even as it maintains its overarching superiority over Pakistani affairs?
So that is the reason why this political fourth force has come into the fray. That is the reason. I totally agree with you. Right. Basically, you see, if the motive seems to be to keep democracy weak, keep the government weak, and that is how they can be regulated more easily, and particularly among the old stream political parties, who are intrinsically corrupt, and obviously, that becomes their weak point also.
Right. Do you worry about the hollowing out of the PTI on the one hand and very public emasculation of Mr. Khan on the other, and how it might eventually impact whenever the elections are held?
See, this is a question, which many people are asking. I just came out of another program, and PTI is Imran Khan. The identification is so absolute and so total that the two cannot be separated. They are kind of, intertwined. Take Khan out of PTI and there would be no PTI, at least for some time. Maybe then there is somebody who can knit it together again, you see, but it's going to be a very weak party. Khan is the face of the PTI, the spirit and essence of PTI, and everything else, that a leader can be. We all have flaws. We all make mistakes, and I'm sure Khan too has flaws and Khan too has made mistakes. But notwithstanding that, it's important to know. It is important to sort of understand the true essence of his association and his place in the PTI. PTI is recognized by his names. It is not the other way around. Let me just take you back a little. The only genuine intra-party election ever held in the history of Pakistan's politics, was in the PTI, and I was then the secretary of the election commission of the party, and I conducted the election. It took almost 15 months, and it was at the grassroots level. We started from the UC upwards, to the chairman. Even chairman was elected. A genuine election process. No other political party has gone through that except the Jamaat-e-Islami, which has a kind of similar sort of election process, every 4 or 5 years. These other political parties, they are kind of family oligarchies. And, from there, the kind of leadership passes, from the father to daughter, a son, or to brother, or to somebody else, basically, which is not the case in the PTI. So we are now thinking of holding the second phase of that intra-party election and then making it a permanent feature. That means we are going to institutionalize the party beyond personalities and persons. If this happens, I think that would be a major step forward in terms of ushering in of genuine democracy within the political parties, because if PTI does it, then I think it will become a norm, and I think the Election Commission of Pakistan should put its foot down and demand that genuine elections are held within the political parties, in case they want to participate in the election process in the country. So I think that will be a very major step forward. But emasculation of Khan, yes, it is going on. No matter what happens to him, whether he's incarcerated or he's out, I mean, we've lost about 70, 80, 60, 70% of our members of parliament. We're very happy about it. As I said, it's a godsend. They're gone, and I think we're back to our ideological moorings. Whatever happens, basically, and I think the stress now onwards, and I'm sharing this with you, is going to be on inducting relatively younger leadership in at all echelons within the party, and you will see this happening in the next 1-2 months' time, definitely before the elections. So you will new faces, more dedicated faces, more genuinely committed to PTI's ideology. They shall emerge as we are rid of the so-called electable lot.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was about to ask you about creating a second or third tier of leaders within the PTI, and which, as you pointed out, Mr. Khan remains the very emblem of the PTI so far. If there is genuine creation of second or third tier of leadership, I suppose that could be useful in the next year, 2 years, 3 years down the line.
Well, absolutely. I feel that it should have happened a long time ago. See, when we held the first intra-party elections back in 2013, 12 and 13, that was for a period of 5 years, and we should have held another election in 18, and it should have become a routine process. Unfortunately, because of various considerations, various constraints, we were not able to do it. But now we are thinking of restarting the process. Yes, that will throw up leadership from the lowest rungs of the political sort of hierarchy. We go to UCs and to tehsils and to districts, and then to the provinces, and then to the federation. So that is the best way. Like, for example, county cricket, at some point in time was the best nursery. And we had wonderful cricketers in India and wonderful cricketers in Pakistan who were the product of that nursery. So I think, that is absolutely vital for throwing up a crop of energized and committed politicians, instead of them coming only from the so-called gentry, from the so-called sort of powerful families or the corrupt families. I think we need to sort of spread it out at the grassroots and encourage people to start taking part. And when in Pakistan, for example, let me tell you, people like me taking part in elections or being in politics, used to be something we would not even think of, because we knew that we would be aliens to the cause, and we would not be elected unless, of course, we had billions and billions stacked up somewhere, and we were willing to invest all that money, to buy votes, which people like me we were not interested in. So we never took part in politics, grassroots politics. I mean, we're technocrats, basically. We're here in a technical position, and we sort of offer our services. But I feel that it's important to know that this distinction between a typical political class, which has been there historically, to a class that I need to, I would want my party to invest in coming up the echelons. I think that's absolutely vital, and that will change the shape of politics. That will change the shape of the way this country has functioned in the past. So we need younger people. We need more committed, energetic people to come up, and that is, I think, Khan Saab's dream at this moment in time, and he's just waiting, for initiating the process.
So the way you're describing it, it appears to me that what I call the messianic model of leadership is probably coming to an end, where there's one person and the rest follow that vision. That seems to be ending within the PTI.
I wish it would. I wish it would come to an end. Yes, sir. We need many leaders rather than just one leader. It's important to know. We need, because the needs of people in the country have grown in the past 75 years. They have not diminished. The poverty has increased. I mean, look, we are today, inflation is at 38%. It is at an all-time high of 38%. I mean, how can people manage? And secondly, I think diversity of leadership is also a cause that I'm totally committed to, because we are all prone to making mistakes. We're not infallible. I'm not infallible. I've committed mistakes, and I will continue to. So a consensus opinion, a collection of people, who would all contribute to making of decisions, to formulating decisions and also to implement those decisions, execute those decisions, I think that will reduce the possibility of making mistakes. So I think collective leadership possibly is a cause, that we should espouse more passionately than we have in the past. But with the induction of this younger lot that we are totally committed to bringing in, I think we would be taking the first step to achieving that objective, in the next maybe 4, 5, 6 years time.
I was going through your Twitter feed and I came across this very compelling construct in that way. It's sort of a cry against, to quote you, perpetration of crime, barbarity, and fascism, unquote. Is that a cry in the wilderness, or you think it's making an impact?
Mayank, I know that you're kind of into literature. I'm into literature. So people like you and I, we never lose hope.
No.
We have dreams, we have very deeply etched dreams within us. I mean, when you sing a song, for example, it comes from within you. It has you coming out.
Yeah.
It has a bit of you coming out in your voice. So when I write, for example, it's a bit of me coming out, in my words.
Right.
So, we never, you and I, people like you and I, we're never going to lose hope. Yes, yes. We will keep trying.
Talking of hope, I'm sorry to be conceited about this, reminded of one of my own shares, which says, Rafta rafta hum nikal aayenge is sailab se. Rafta rafta hum nikal aayenge is sailab se. Phir kahenge apne qisse aur kuch sunenge ahbab se. So, hope that
if you may let me sort of say this. I mean, I think obviously Faz has been my bedside table book from very, very young days. I've kind of grown up with Faz. I share the dreams that he wo subhe, his poem on the independence on the independence of Pakistan, on the partition of the subcontinent, basically. So, it says ke kahin to hoga shabe sust mauj ka sahil, kahin to jaake rukega safina ye game dil.
Wow.
I mean, nothing can describe it better. People like you and me, basically, we live in this perennial, unbreakable hope.
I agree.
We will come to the shore someday, sir.
Absolutely. What is the status of the 150 plus cases? How does he navigate so many cases? I'm very curious about it. Do they come up all together? Do they come in bunches? How does the process play out?
3 days ago, when he traveled from Lahore to Islamabad, he appeared at 3 different courts concerning 20 cases.
Oh.
So he left Lahore at 4 o'clock in the morning. He got back to Lahore at midnight. And when after that, I think 2 or 3 days ago, also there were about 13 cases. At the Lahore High Court, for example, he went, I think, day before yesterday, there were about 7 cases. So bulk of cases, there are 150 plus now. And this is just unbelievable what they are trying to do. They're just trying to do. They want to just keep him running from one court to the other, getting one bail after the other. And but he has steely nerves. I've seen him through years and years and years. He's not giving up. He won't give up. He has nerves of steel, basically. And he will. I think if there's one person who shall be able to weather this, I think it's him, Imran Khan. I have not met another person who is as determined as he is, in spite of our fallibility. I think he'll come out. He'll come out.
There are also mundane challenges that go with it in terms of funding this. I'm sure it costs a lot to go through this legal process on travel, etc. You have to have your lawyers and so on. How are you managing all this?
Well, it's party works on donations, basically. And yes, you are right. You are absolutely right. These are the mundane challenges, because legal help is very expensive in this country, particularly in a situation that PTI is. We're very vulnerable, very vulnerable. So they know that we need a lawyer. So although we have a bunch of committed lawyers who are also members of the party, yet, it is not 1 or 2 or 3 lawyers that we need. We need many more than just 2 or 3 lawyers. So we have to make payments, So we're going through a very difficult time financially, but still we're managing to gather the funds, to pay the legal fees and all that.
Can you not ask?
Very difficult.
I don't know how the system in Pakistan works, but is it possible for you to ask a court to consolidate all the cases in one place and then fight. I know the whole idea is to make him run around, but still, beyond that, even if the government is bent upon convicting him somehow in one or two or five of these cases, it's better if they are all consolidated, don't you think?
Well, we would love to have them consolidated, no, but their cases are spread out as far away as Islamabad, Peshawar, Quetta, Lahore, of course, and Multan, so many other cities, basically. And I think even if there were, I'm not certain whether there is a provision in the law whereby you could actually do it or demand it. But I don't think there is. But I'll check and get back
Yeah,
to you on
sure,
that.
sure.
But I think even if there were a provision, I'm sure that it will not be granted to us.
Yeah. I'm curious, I'm sure you're familiar with some of those cases. Which one do you think is the most laughably ridiculous? Is there anything that comes to your mind? If it doesn't, it's fine. I'm just curious.
Well, I would say that virtually all of them are laughably ridiculous, as you put it, basically, because it's just to try to contain him. That's all. I mean, these cases would be thrown out, in any court of law within one hearing. They will not go beyond one hearing.
Yeah.
They're just laughable.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is a person who has never indulged in corruption. This is something that even his worst enemies would vouch for. So I mean, how could he do that? Um, they're absolutely flimsy, and they're of course the motivation is different. Motivation is not to punish him for a crime. The motive is to punish him for his defiance.
How
That
do
is.
these frequent addresses that he has on the internet, they call it address to the nation sort of thing, is it making the kind of impact that you want?
Well, yes, definitely. See, at this moment in time, Khan's appearance is banned on mainstream media.
Right.
No television channel or newspaper can publish his photograph or even a statement that he has made. When I took over as Secretary Information of the party, I started appearing in television. They could endure me for just 3 days, and then I was banned also. Now I cannot appear on any mainstream media. My articles are still being published, but I don't know whether my article will appear tomorrow because it appears every Friday. There's a blanket ban on Khan, but my ban only is confined to my appearances on television. I can no longer appear on television. So this is an alternate medium that we have created, and yes, on social media, the reach runs in thousands and thousands and thousands. So the message gets across definitely very effectively. But we are moving a petition against a gagging order. In fact, there is nothing in writing. And that was, in fact, the problem that our lawyers were facing. They said, we should have something in writing, but there was nothing in writing. So, this is how media is controlled in Pakistan, that they're summoned and they're ordered not to do something and they don't do it. There's not even a whimper. Forget about a noise. There's not even a whimper of protest.
Yeah,
Nobody is
but
protesting.
in this day and age of the internet and very active YouTube / social media, it's ridiculous, absurd to think that you can keep information from getting out the way Mr. Khan and a lot of other leaders do. So, what's the point of gagging the media at this stage?
I don't know. I think it's just making things difficult for us. Yes, that definitely. He has to do this every evening, so that he gets across the message to his people, to his supporters, to his backers, and yes, it costs money, and money these days under these restrictions, is not easy to collect. So it creates problems, definitely creates problems. And tomorrow, we keep hearing rumors, that they're going to clamp down on the social media also.
Yeah.
For 3 days, we did not have a Wi-Fi at Zaman Park where he lives, so we were completely inaccessible to the outside world. So they can do that, but since there was a lot of protest, because that affected a number of localities around that area also, and there was a huge protest. That is why they had to kind of lift the curbs. But they can do that. They can do that.
Yeah, just last couple of things. One is I read that a quote by him suggesting that he's open to talking to the military because they are the real decision makers. The government is of no consequence. What does it mean he's open to talking to them?
See, he constituted a committee. If you remember, go
Yes.
back in time, the Supreme
Right.
Court, when this petition was moved, they said, that why don't you sit and talk to each other? Consequently, the government side and we constituted committees, and they had 3 rounds of talks. This was regarding the date for holding an election. And unfortunately, though we showed a lot of flexibility, the government side was quite rigid. So they, without, I mean, the 3 rounds were over without any decision being arrived at. So now he has constituted a committee, and he says, yes, I'm open to talking to the establishment and the political forces of the country both. Because, Mayank, at the end of the day, we are a political party. We have political objectives, and we can only achieve them by pursuing a political path within the constitution and the rule of law. So we have to stick within the rule of law, and negotiations is the best possible way. I'll take you to my India-Pakistan dialogue, that I held from the platform of my think tank. Mani Shankar Iyer Saab, you know him, of course.
Right.
So he was one of the delegates, and he came to Pakistan. And he, he's an inspiring person.
He is.
And he said, we must all talk to one another, but if we have issues, we must talk more to one another.
Right.
And he coined this phrase, and he said, India and Pakistan, with the kind of problems they have, they should have an uninterrupted dialogue and an uninterruptible dialogue. An uninterrupted and uninterruptible.
I remember that, yes.
Right? So this is his coinage, basically.
Yeah.
And this is what we have followed at RPI, Regional Peace Institute.
I see.
So this is the kind of, this is what's in his mind, basically. And he says that, let's engage in a political dialogue and see whether we can overcome the differences that we have.
Yeah.
And the other party, of course, is not willing at this moment in time to come to the table. But our offer is there.
Okay.
We are willing to enter into talks with anyone who wants to.
To conclude, my sense from a distance is that apart from Mr. Khan, you have among the most prominent presences on the net and elsewhere in the media. Are you running any risk of triggering some reaction from the establishment?
Well, I hope not. That is my wish. I hope not. And then I'm pursuing a narrative, which is qualitatively different also. I believe that at some point in time, we will have to sit across the table, talk things out, uninterrupted, uninterruptible kind of thing. And that is the only way for a political party. What happened on 9th of May basically is very unfortunate. It should not have happened, but it was not a planned thing. It just happened on the spur of the moment. It was a reaction to Khan being taken in the way he was taken in. So I hope that, I call myself a voice of sanity, and I wrote a piece on this also, that let there be voices of sanity. Let there be voices, who preach, compromise. It's important because I think among the two best people also, there is a need for compromise. Among two political parties or more political parties, there's a need for compromise. And that is possible only when you sit across, talk to one another, and know exactly what are the reservations of the other side and how far can you go to sort of meet them, to remove them. So I hope that people like me are left out to continue doing a job, which is to the benefit of the country. And of course, my party also, but not exclusively my party. I'm basically concerned about my country. We discussed it during our last session, and I think I'd not like to go back to it, but I think we're going to be passing through a grave crisis. I mean, for example, elections. Nothing is certain at this moment in time whether elections are going to be held or not, and they're not willing to make a commitment. As a matter of fact, divergent voices are coming out from within the ruling clique. They want to hold elections, and they don't want to hold elections because basically what they want to do is to neutralize Khan before holding the election. They want to be sure that he's not going to win the election, and that let me warn them, they would not be able to ensure under any circumstances at all. Even in the best of times, they can't, and these are not the best of times. These are the worst of times, and they would not be able to do it. But there is a couple of things that I would like to say. I see that whenever the elections are held, I think they're going to be the highest attended lectures, in elections in Pakistan. In the by-elections, the voting percentage went up to 62%, which is unprecedented, And I reckon that possibly in the general elections, whenever they're held, we will have a voting percentage close to 80% or even more than
That's
that.
right.
And that is PTI's strength. All the younger people out there, they are determined to vote, and they shall come in big numbers to vote PTI in whenever the elections are held.